The West Virginia Mountaineers have finally made it into the AP Top 25 as they get ready to head into Big 12 play. Is without a doubt the toughest conference in the nation, and they're flexing their muscle, and we've got numbers to back it up. What is up, college hoops fans? My name is Couz.
And I am Mountaineer Paul.
And we present to you
Hoops from the Hills.
What's going on, everybody? Paul and I are here. We're going to talk a little bit of West Virginia Mountaineer hoops. We're going to talk a little bit of Big 12 Conference. Paul, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Been researching this morning. I know you have too.
Sure.
There's a lot of numbers to get into.
Oh, absolutely.
Excited.
Man. We've got net rankings. We've got KenPom. We've got Evan Miyakawa. We got, you name it, we got it right here.
Brad Howell, a little bit of Brad Howell mixed in.
Brad Howell and the guys from Three Guys Before the Game, absolutely. Real quick, before we jump into the Big 12 stuff and dive into some numbers, just real quick, what are your thoughts on West Virginia finally getting put into the top 25 at number 24 in the AP poll?
Yeah, that Xavier loss hurt us. It really, I feel like prolonged it a little further than it needed to be. You know, in some rankings, we were top 10 in the country. So, the ones that matter anyway. So really glad to see that finally happen. But, you know, I'm sure Bob Huggins is telling those guys this means nothing. And just keep playing the next game, which is the right mindset and way to approach it.
Mountaineers stayed at 10-2 in non-conference playoffs, with their two losses are to Xavier and Purdue. So the Purdue loss doesn't hurt them at all, in my opinion, because Purdue's one of the top teams in the country. Like you said, the Xavier loss is one they would like to have back. They could have and should have won that game, in my opinion. And I'll be honest, had they been 100% healthy, I think they could have given Purdue a better. I think they could have won that game as well. Not saying they would have, but they could have. If everybody remembers, the team was riddled with the flu that game. But that being said, as we get ready to go into Big 12 play, the Big 12 is flexing its muscle, man. John Rothstein put out a tweet, I think it was yesterday, about the Big 12 and where they stand. You want to read that, what he tweeted out?
Yeah, so the Big 12 has 8 teams in the top 50. The entire league is in the top 60 net rankings. And also, what I thought was really interesting is the 5 through 8 spots are all ranked between 30 and 38.
Wow.
So the bottom of the league is still top 38 in the country. Just unbelievably difficult. So, and it gets no easier. You know,
right.
we Kansas State this coming week. A couple small tidbits on them before we move on, because we're going to be doing a more comprehensive deal on them coming up this week with John Kurtz. Hopefully we contacted him. He said he'd come on. So hopefully he starts feeling better. He's had the flu.
Ooh.
But from all accounts, he's going to do this with us. But so far, the best wins for Kansas State this year are Butler and LSU. Both of those teams are 60 or worse in the KenPom rankings and the net rankings. West Virginia, by far, will be the best team that Kansas State has played this year at number 21. And so, not really sure how good the Wildcats are just yet, because they are 11-1, which is an incredible record, but they haven't faced anywhere near the level of competition we had. So it'll be a tough test to start out, and I think a good test for both teams, and it'll be the perfect barometer for both.
When you look at the Big 12 compared to other conferences, I was looking online as well. I think John Rothstein also shared this. The Big 10 has the most teams in the top 50 of the net rankings with 9. Big 12 has 8, but you got to take into account the Big 12 only has 10 teams. 80% of the league is in the top 50 of the net rankings, whereas the Big 10 has 14 teams. It's 9 out of 14. So, I mean, it's still good. Big 10 is still a good league. But Big 12 is, in my opinion, hands down, at least to date, the best conference in the land. I mean, 80% of your team is in the top 50 in the net. I mean, that's just remarkable. I mean, every game that you win in the Big 12 Conference, with the exception of maybe a couple, will be quad one wins, if not all of them.
Right.
We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, every win is a quad 1 or 2 win. Every single win in the Big 12 Conference right now. Every road win is a quad 1 victory in the Big 12 right now.
Awesome.
And the crazy thing is TCU, a team that was a preseason top 10 team, is now just outside the top 50 in the rankings. So that just lets you know the strength of this conference top to bottom.
I'm excited about the season, but I'm also, man, it's going to be a gauntlet.
Yeah.
Like I think it was Brad Howe even made a statement in the three guys before the game show. He said it's hard. I mean, it's bad in one regard because you can lose on any given night, and it's so challenging. But at the same time, it's a positive because every game you play is an opportunity to move up the rankings every time and increase your your March Madness odds or your seed in the tournament, whatever the case may be. Because like you said earlier, every win's a quality win. So every game is an opportunity to get a quality win, but at the same time, it's going to be extremely, extremely hard. And another metric, Paul, that you and I were talking about, I think it was from KenPom, where it ranked or predicted the next several games. Can you just tell our listeners how close these games in the Big 12 are expected to be for the Mountaineers?
Yeah. According to Ken Pomeroy, the rankings, KenPom, the next 8 games, and this is as of yesterday, but K-State West Virginia is favored to win by 1 over Oklahoma State. They're favored to win by 2 over West Virginia. Kansas, lose by 1. Baylor, win by 3. Oklahoma, lose by 2. TCU, win by 6. Kansas, lose by 1. And Texas Tech, lose by 2. And so if you don't see the trend there, it's where I think a lot of us are, as of right now anyway, barring maybe Jose Perez getting the waiver or something like that, or the team playing some better defense or rebounding better. This team is looking like a 500 Big 12 team. I think a lot of us are okay with that because a team that's 500 in the Big 12 this year is probably going to be a top 4 seed in the tournament. So, it's not like you're not going to have a chance to go there and win 2 or 3 games and possibly make a Sweet 16, Elite 8, and make a run. It's just how good the conference is. In years past, a conference might have 2 or 3 teams this good. But the Big 12 in 4 or 5 straight years now, I mean, we've really become the SEC of college basketball. It's been fun. It's a fun ride. But, yeah, there's a lot of close games here and will probably be a lot of one-possession games.
Yeah. And just to tell everybody, talking about finishing 500 in the league and still being a 4 seed. Right now, Joe Lunardi has West Virginia as a 4 seed in the tournament. And at the beginning of the season, in his preseason bracketology, he didn't even have us in at all. So, I mean, that just shows, number one, it shows how hard the league is. And 2, because, I'm sure he's not predicting West Virginia to do much better than 500 in the league. 10 wins at most, probably, I think is what most people are saying. And still has us as a 4 seed. And then it also shows the kind of turnaround West Virginia has made. And they did it by using the transfer portal. Just to give you guys a little bit of an example of that. I was listening to the earsports.com podcast where they interviewed Evan Miyakawa. For those of you who don't know, Evan Miyakawa is an analyst who basically has his own analytical formula to measure and predict the performance of basketball teams and basketball players. You can go to evanmaya.com, EVANMIYA.com, and that's where all the information is. There's some stuff there for free, and then there's a subscription service if you want to get really deep into the weeds. But he was talking to Chris Anderson the other day, or Mike Kazaza, one of them. I don't remember which guy it was, but nonetheless, on the Ear Sports podcast. And he had some very interesting takes about the Mountaineers and how well they did in the portal this year. For example, Joe Toussaint. Evan Miyakawa had Joe Toussaint as a top 14 difference maker in the transfer portal this year. I didn't see that. I didn't see Joe Toussaint. Hell, I didn't even know who Joe Toussaint was, to be flat out honest with you. I mean, I don't watch a lot of Iowa basketball, And, the guy only averaged about 4 or 5 points a game. It wasn't like he was on my radar. But, man, he's turned out to be a great player, and Evan Miyakawa turned out to be right in that regard. And right now in his top 250 players in the country, based on his analytics, West Virginia has 5 of those top 250 players. 4 of those guys are transfers. Eric Stevenson, Emmett Matthews, Joe Toussaint, Trey Mitchell. All 4 of those guys are in the top 250 in Evan Miyakawa's rankings. And so Bob Huggins has taken the transfer portal, turned and flipped it on its head, and so far it looks like he's turned his program around. Now, obviously, I hate to get my hopes up too high because I know last season going into Big 12 play, the team also had a really good record, and then they only won 4 games in the league, and it went south fast. But I don't think that's going to happen to this team. Number one, you can watch them play and tell they're much better, especially on the offensive end. But I just wanted to show everything you're hearing in the media from Lenardi, from Net Rankings to KenPom, all this stuff. And then you see some of this data Evan Miyakawa had about transfers, and it tells you why West Virginia is where they are as far as this turnaround goes.
Yeah. And I haven't had a chance myself to listen to that interview, but you and I have talked about it extensively, had our own opinions on it, agreed with, disagreed with certain parts of it. But it is really interesting. And in any metric that I've looked at, the same 4 to 5 players from West Virginia pop up in all of them. And it's really interesting, man. And it's wonderful what the transfer portal and somebody like Bob Huggins, who is so many decades into his coaching career and has something else new thrown at him. And it only takes him, 1 season to adjust. I think that's pretty good. He admittedly swung and missed last year in the portal, and he really made his hay there this year. And then possibly the second to third best player isn't even playing. We don't know how good Jose Perez could be. I'm of the mindset that he could even be the best player on this team if given the opportunity to start with the team this year, and how the pecking order would have established. I think he was that good. I've watched enough of his tape to have a really high opinion of him, but he's not on the team. So don't know what's going to happen with that going forward, but man, he'd be a great late add to this. Really get some of us excited about what could possibly happen down the road, because he's 23 years old. To think that he's going to stick around for another year, I just don't see it, So I guess we get talking about this, and I can't help but go there in my head, like, what the heck could Jose Perez offer this team? He's a full-grown man.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm hoping if he does decide to stay around next year, it would end up being a home run move, not only but I think for the program, it would actually benefit them more to have him next year, because they're losing those guys I mentioned. They lose them all. They lose Emmett. They lose Trey. They lose Kedrian. They lose Joe. They lose Eric. They lose all those guys. They're going to need somebody like him to step in. So I hope he does stay around, and I hope he does come back next year, because he would be – and I'll be honest with you, I think he'd make even a bigger impact next year because of that.
Possibly.
Now, could he take this team this year to the next level? I think so. But at the same time, and I know I told you about this, and you thought it was ridiculous. But according to Evan Miyakawa, Jose Perez would not make that much of a difference on this year's team. Now, he's not saying he prefaced it by saying Jose Perez is a great player, but when you just look at the analytics and the makeup of this team, he doesn't know that the team makes the team that much better than what they already are, based on how they're constructed.
Right.
Like I said, it's all strictly analytics. It's taking the eye test and throwing it out the window. All that. So, some of it is just coincidental. Some of it may not mean anything, but it's still interesting to hear somebody like him who crunches numbers for a living say, well, maybe he wouldn't make that much of a difference. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of agree. And I'm not saying that because, and I know you disagree, but that's okay.
Wholeheartedly.
Yes, he's a great player, but somebody's losing minutes. Who's going to? Are you taking Joe Toussaint off the floor the way he's been
You
playing?
don't have to do that.
Are you
You don't have to
taking
do
Deidrean
that.
Johnson off the floor?
You don't have to do that either.
Why don't you? He's a
You
guard.
don't.
You
There are
play with
several
three.
players. There are several players that get 6 or 7 minutes a game that, to keep it real, aren't very good.
You're playing Jose Perez.
Mohamed Wagee being one of those.
I agree, but he's not. Mohamed Wagee doesn't play his position.
Doesn't matter. You can switch things around, different lineups.
Yeah, I agree. But man, you start putting guys out of position. You have what we had last year.
Yeah, an 18 points per game score.
Like you had Jalen Bridges who was out of position. You had Isaiah Cottrell who was playing out of position. Those guys were disgruntled. They ended up leaving the team. I think you risk messing up the chemistry of the team if you add him right now. That's just my opinion.
Well, without Emmett Matthews and when Eric Stevenson goes out of the game right now, there is nobody to score the ball consistently. And Jose Perez could do that.
He could,
you know.
I agree, but I just feel. I mean, you're not putting him in the game without taking minutes from somebody else that other than the guy, the backups that are playing 6-7 minutes, because he's going to play more than that because he's too good not to. See what I mean? I agree. That's a fair argument. I just think you go with what's proven. Now, if the appeal gets approved and he ends up playing, I'll welcome him with open arms. It's not that I don't want him on the team, and I think he got shafted by getting denied, and that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day.
Why would Bob Huggins still be pushing for this if he didn't feel differently? I guess.
I'm sure that's the case.
Right.
What coach is not going to want him to add a great player like that on the team at any time? But I'm just giving you my opinion, Al's opinion, which, like I said, I know it's strictly analytics, but I kind of believe that analytics. I don't believe analytics tells the whole story, but I think it's a big piece of
it. I watched this team go 5 minutes without scoring against Buffalo and another 3 to 4 minutes without scoring against the team we played last week, Stony Brook. Yeah. There were several stretches where we had nobody to score the ball.
That's fair.
And it's just I don't know if that's going to come back to bite us at any point this year. Unfortunately, our defense doesn't hold up for long enough to allow those stretches to happen. And anytime we're not scoring every possession, it seems like teams catch up. So it can be frustrating.
Yeah, I hear you. I agree with you. And like I say, I didn't know. Is Jose Perez a great player? Absolutely. But there's more to it than that. It's about how the pieces fit into the puzzle, based on what position they play, who you're having to take off the court, chemistry, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, is there anything else you want to add, Paul, before we dismiss and say adios to our good folks out there?
No, just be watching for John Kurtz. We should be having him on the show the 29th and the 30th, depending on his schedule. He's going to the Sugar Bowl to watch the Cats play, which is probably going to be really fun. But we'll get to preview the K-State game then. And he knows quite a bit about that squad. Be interesting to see what he has to say about the Wildcats.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I always, you and I both have much respect for John. He's one of the, in my opinion, the great Big 12 personalities out there. I always love to hear what he has to say.
And advocates.
Absolutely. He's always been
gracious. A huge advocate.
Gracious enough to work with us and give us some of his time, even though he's got a very busy schedule. So much love and respect to John. Hope he enjoys his trip to the Sugar Bowl and hope the Wildcats bring home a victory over the Crimson Tide. But I hope they go down to the hands of the Mountaineers in basketball on the same day. Which is, Kansas State fans have a little bit of a challenge there.
What a conundrum. Well, they're not going to be watching that basketball game.
Well, and it too, and how many fans will actually be at the game? That's another thing.
They're playing Alabama. Like I would say, K-State's so far up for this game. Oh yeah, the basketball game
against us.
They're probably still going to pack that stadium, I would think. You know,
maybe.
Yeah, because not everybody can go to the Sugar Bowl. You know, I mean, what are they going to have? 30,000 at the most there? 20,000? I don't know how it's going to work. You would think there would be enough left over to fill up their stadium, but maybe not.
Well, I mean, but
Be
you
interesting
also,
to see.
yeah, you take in consideration too. The students are going to be home; they're not there on campus.
Yeah,
It's New
yeah,
Year's Eve, so a lot of people may have other plans.
that's true. It could be a
So,
dud in there that night, which would be
so it'll
good
be
for
interesting to
us.
see. But at the same time, the way Kansas State fans, as passionate as they are, and as excited as they are about Jerome Tang being there, and the
Yeah.
enthusiasm around that program, it would surprise me a bit to see it packed out. So it will be interesting to see. But anyway, guys, real quick before we go, please subscribe to this channel here at Hoops from the Hills for your West Virginia and Big 12 basketball content. Please check Paul and I out at our other channels at Couz's Corner, which is my channel, and then Mountaineer Paul Talks Football on his channel, where we talk West Virginia and Big 12 football. We collab a lot together there as well, and we, of course, on each other's channels some. And but those are our separate projects that we want you guys to support if you don't care. And just as an announcement, I have just now officially opened my own website, Couz'sCorner.com, COUZS corner.com. Go check it out. Let me know, look, I set the thing up myself. It took me several hours to do it. I'm no website designer, guys. So go, leave me some critiques if you want to, whatever, whether it be on the site or here under the comments. I want to hear what needs to be changed on the website. I'm going to have some folks writing for me hopefully soon. So there'll be some blog posts up. I've got links to the Hoops from the Hills channel there, Hoops to my channel as well. So go check it out, please. Let us know what you think. Hopefully Paul's going to be, hopefully be a big part of that with me as well. Paul, any parting words, my man?
No, we'll be seeing everybody before New Year's, so don't want to wish them a happy years just yet. Hope everybody had a good Christmas. Hope everybody had a wonderful time with their families. I was certainly blessed to have time with mine. Couz, I know you were with yours as well.
Yes.
And just really feel grateful to be able to do this and talk to Mountaineer sports and Big 12 sports. And really grateful.
Absolutely, man. Same here, brother. I enjoy every minute of it. Sometimes too much, to be honest with you. I spend probably more time on it than I should because I'm so passionate about it. But that being said, guys, we really appreciate you tuning into this episode of Hoops on the Hills. We're going to let you go now. And until the next episode, we're out.